In the abyss of ages, when the Emperor's golden light first reached beyond the cradle of Terra, the 12th Legion was forged from the most intractable elements of old Earth, the warlords of the Rad Wastes, the pit fighters bred in hive sumps where mercy was a myth. They were warriors whose fury already bordered on collective madness, their blood singing with a violence that no discipline could fully tame. They were given armor of stark white trimmed with cerulean blue, and they fell upon the enemy like a pack of ravenous wolves scenting a wounded herd. For their unspeakable ferocity, for the howling that accompanied their charges, they were named the War Hounds. They were the Emperor's assault clenched into a mailed fist. Wherever a recalcitrant species needed to be shattered beyond recovery at any cost, the War Hounds were hurled headlong into the meat grinder. Their battle cry, a bestial roar that vibrated in the bones of friend and foe alike, echoed across 1,000 fields of war, a harbinger of slaughter so absolute that even veteran Imperial Army regiments would falter at its sound. Yet even among these monsters of controlled savagery, rage had its limits, a leash that the Emperor's commanders still believed they held. That illusion shattered forever when the Primarch descended to claim his sons. On the distant, agri-barbaric world of Nuceria, beneath twin suns that hammered the blood-soaked sands of the arena, Angron rose. Not as a conqueror from the stars, but as a slave child dragged from the gene cradles, raised in darkness, his only education the arithmetic of survival. He became the foremost gladiator, a rebel who refused the master's yoke, a brother to the broken and the damned. When the Emperor descended from the heavens in a column of cold, absolute light to claim his lost son, Angron was already on the threshold of the only death he had ever craved, a death beside his sworn brother gladiators. But the Emperor, ever the architect of distant futures, followed the merciless arithmetic of utility. He took only the Primarch, teleporting Angron away from his chosen execution, leaving the eaters of cities to be butchered. From that moment, an eternal white-hot hatred for his father took root in Angron's heart, a hatred that festered like an unhealing wound. Archaic neural implants, hammered into his brain by Nucerian slave masters, rewired pain into an almost narcotic rage, and transmuted any moment of peace into searing torment. Angron could no longer draw a calm breath without the nails biting deeper. Empathy itself became a spike driven through his cortex. This cursed technology, this unremovable cage, he brought to his legion not as a gift, but as the only honest inheritance he could give. Thousands of his sons, already teetering on the edge of frenzy, willingly had the butcher's nails hammered into their own skulls by chirurgeons and crimson-lit apothecarians. The War Hounds died in that ceremony, and from their convulsing bodies were reborn the World Eaters. They abandoned the last pretense of tactics and discipline, letting the nails dictate every motion. Their war turned into an endless, galaxy-spanning bloody feast. Chain X's howled like hungry demons just born from the warp, their adamantium teeth chewing through ceramite and bone. The Legion was still notionally divided into companies, but the only true chain of command belonged to Fury, and the only strategy was the insatiable thirst for slaughter that boiled in every skull. During the grinding years of the Great Crusade, the World Eaters sowed terror like a farmer sowing salt across the galaxy's fields. They did not conquer worlds. They devoured them, leaving behind charnel houses where entire civilizations were butchered in rituals of such unspeakable cruelty that even the 8 legions' torturers raised an eyebrow. Yet the stronger their collective rage became, the deeper the nails sank, the more Angron's hatred for the distant emperor crystallized into a single, burning imperative: to tear down every throne built on the bones of slaves. He despised the emperor and all who served him, not out of political grievance, but because he recognized in the master of mankind another Nucerian ruler, another slave master in golden armor. When Horus offered the path of rebellion, Angron did not hesitate for a single heartbeat. For him, the heresy was not a complicated web of politics and esoteric bargains with the warp. It was the long-awaited, the only chance to finally unleash a hatred that had been fermenting in his breast for decades, a chance to baptize the galaxy in the blood of tyrants. At Istvan III, the mask finally fell. The World Eaters revealed their true nature. Angron did not wait for orbital bombardment to finish the job. He personally descended to the surface, his colossal bulk landing amid the bioscoured ruins with a crash that split the bedrock. In the Coral City, his warriors unleashed a massacre of such primal, ecstatic violence that even the other traitor legions, the vaunted sons of Horus, the nihilistic Death Guard, recoiled in genuine horror. The World Eaters killed not for victory, not even for vengeance. They killed for the sake of killing itself, because the act was the only moment the nails granted them a glimmer of fleeting, razor-edged peace. This was not war. This was sacred madness given form. Angron led them from one slaughter to the next, a red path painted across the stars. The butchers' nails in their skulls pulsed ever stronger, the Archaeotech's hunger intensifying with every fight, turning their minds into an absolute, featureless crimson haze. Many warriors could no longer stop their killing even after the last enemy fell. They turned on one another, chain axe against chain fist, brother against brother, carving the air with shrieks of rage, until sheer exhaustion dropped them like discarded puppets into the bloody mud. But the true pinnacle of their glorious madness, the moment when the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath in dread, arrived during the Siege of Terra, when the War Master's grand fleet darkened the skies of Holy Terra. The World Eaters hurled themselves into battle with a primal, almost pre-sapient fury that dwarfed even the demons clawing through the veil. Colossal figure of Angron, covered in an ever-thickening layer of scars and dried gore, sowed such elemental terror among the defenders that entire platoons broke and rooted before a single blow was struck. Beside him, a blood-soaked shadow marched Karn, whose Gorcheld had now reaped such a bountiful, skull-strewn harvest that his legend was not merely written into chronicles. It was carved into the very stone of the imperial palace in screaming faces. The World Eaters built no siege engines and dug no trenches. They had no need for the tedious calculus of conventional warfare. They simply advanced, a single, unstoppable tide of ceramite and hate, through the minefields that shredded the first ranks into red mist, through the storms of fire unleashed by Dorne's defenders, through the cyclopean fortifications of the imperial fists who stood like unbreakable gold. They died by the thousands, each death a sacrifice, but every fallen warrior only fueled the blood hunger of those who trampled over his corpse. Their attacks were so ferocious, so heedless of self-preservation that even the Justaerin Terminators and veteran sons of Horus sometimes stepped aside, not out of cowardice, but from the very real fear of being hacked to pieces by the utterly indiscriminate blades of their own frenzied, mad-eyed allies. The climax of their rampage came in the legendary duel between Angron and Sanguinius. The two Primarchs, brothers now reduced to the purest enmity, clashed amid the smoking ruins of the palace. Sanguinius, the great angel, fought with a cold, controlled fury and a masterful geometric skill. Every blow was a lesson in martial perfection. Angron, by contrast, fought with a primordial, pre-human hatred that owed nothing to technique and everything to the nails screaming, a torrent of unthinking violence that bent the air around him. In the end, sheer exhaustion and the combined resilience of defenders saw the Red Angel defeated and gravely wounded, his body pierced a dozen times. Yet even this monumental downfall could not halt the World Eaters, for their momentum was no longer dependent on a single leader. When Horus was struck down and the soul of the rebellion guttered out, the Great Retreat began. The World Eaters were among the very last to withdraw, not because of any tactical rearguard genius, but because they simply refused to stop killing. They did not flee. They retreated fighting, taking heads and spilling innards. To this day, from the depths of the Eye, they continue their eternal crusade of madness. They descend upon imperial worlds without warning or reason, unleashing massacres of such monstrous, reality-shredding scale that even the other Chaos Legions, the scheming Thousand Sons, the languid Emperor's children, sometimes recoil before the sheer, unadulterated fury of the Berserker tide. The World Eaters are a living sermon on the most terrible truth in this galaxy of blood. Rage is not a weapon to be wielded. Rage is a chain that binds the wielder, and once it fully seizes a warrior, nothing remains of him but a hollow vessel of hunger, skulls, and a scream that will never end. In this galaxy, there are no heroes. There are only butchers, and an eternally hungry God who demands ever more blood.